Just a minute. English by Eddie Singh, and today we are going to talk about literature, class 10, poem Not Marble Nor Gilded Monuments by William Shakespeare. Well, children, this is a sonnet written by William Shakespeare. Rather, this is the 55th sonnet of William Shakespeare. Now the question arises, what is a sonnet? Well, sonnet is defined as a 14-line poem divided into 3 sections, 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. What is a quatrain? Quatrain is a 4-line stanza and couplet is a 2-line stanza. So 14 line is divided in what manner? 3 quatrain, 4 3 is 12 and 1 couplet, that is 2. So 12 plus 2, 14 lines. Now the question arises, what is this poem about? Not marble nor gilded monuments about. This poem that is written by William Shakespeare highlights the futility of monuments and the sluggish time that destroys everything. It highlights 3 important factors. First one is the comparison between poem and monuments. What is the first one? What is the first idea highlighted by Shakespeare? The first idea highlighted by William Shakespeare is the comparison between poetry and monuments. What is the first thing highlighted by William Shakespeare? The first quatrain, say like that, the first quatrain highlights comparison between poetry and monuments. The second quatrain highlights ravages of time on monuments, contrasted with those of poems. The third quatrain talks about the recorded memory of people in the form of poem, which will be remembered till posterity. And the couplet emphasizes poetry that immortalizes our friend's love. So now the whole poem is divided into 4 different parts. The first 3 quatrains highlight 3 important factors. I just repeat. The first quatrain highlights comparison between poetry and monuments. The second quatrain highlights ravages of time on monuments, contrasted with those of poems. The third quatrain highlights the recorded memory of people, and that will be remembered till posterity. And the last couplet, that is the last one, 2 lines, stanza, highlights that poetry immortalizes our friend's love. Now let us see first talk about the summary, then we will go by line. Now so far as the summary is concerned, and William Shakespeare gives an idea about 2 important factors. That a poem written in the praise and admiration of our beloved friend can live forever, rather than monuments or any structure erected in their memory. Because any structure, any statue, any monuments erected in the memory of our friend can be destroyed by this sluggish time. Time has an ugly habit of destroying everything. But poem cannot be destroyed. Poetry always lives forever. Therefore, we can say that poetry can immortalize our friend's love. The poet also talks about the wasteful war. That war results into death and destruction. So it results into wastage. And but even the sword of Mars, who is god of war, cannot destroy poetry. Poetry remains unaffected even by the sword of Mars, who is known as god of war. Who is Mars known as?
God of wars.
But poetry cannot be destroyed by any forces, forces of war. In contrast, we can say monuments and statue and all artistic design or all arts of creation can come to ravages against time, because time is the most powerful killer of everything. Killer of. And at last, Shakespeare says that poetry, the contents of a writing, can be, so important because it can perpetuate our friends' love, and the friends of ours will be remembered by the people till posterity. Till posterity. Therefore, we can say that poetry immortalizes our love. What does poetry do? Tell me.
Immortalizes
Poetry
our love.
immortalizes our love. That is how this sonnet is about. And now we will go line by line. Let us talk about line by line explanation of this poem. Yeah, not marble nor the gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme. William Shakespeare says that powerful rhyme written by the poet in admiration of his friend will live longer than any marble or any gold-plated statues erected in their memory. Which one will live longer? Poetry will live longer. Poetry will
live longer.
In contrast of what? In contrast of any monuments or any kind of marble, any kind of gold-plated marble erected in the memory of someone. Like in the earlier kings and queens got their monuments erected in gold and silver just to be remembered till posterity. Why did prince and princess get their monuments and statues erected in their name? The monuments like Taj, monuments and statues were erected in their name just to perpetuate their love. Perpetuate their
love.
But the fact was that time destroyed them. So Shakespeare says that poetry can live longer than any monuments or statue erected in the memory of one's friend. In the memory of one's friend. So which one will live longer? Tell me. Poetry will
live longer.
Of the princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme, but you shall shine more bright in these contents. In these contents refers to the poem. What does these contents refer to? The poem written by the poet. Contents refer to what? Tell me.
The poem.
And so, who will shine? Who does you here refer to? Here,
Poem.
you is the poet's friend. The poet's friend will shine more brighter in these poems written by the poet, because they will remain unaffected by any forces of destruction. Any forces of
destruction.
But the monuments and statue kept or unswept will be destroyed by sluggish time. Destroyed by
sluggish time.
Why is time being called sluggish? Because time has an ugly habit of destroying everything. Time is called sluggish because it has an ugly habit of destroying everything sooner or later. So the first stanza summarizes as the comparison between monuments and poetry. Monuments and
poetry.
The poet compares the poetry and monuments. Poetry and
monuments.
And he says that poetry can live longer than any monuments. Any
monuments
erected in the name of someone. Erected in the name of
someone.
Second stanza. When wasteful war statues overturn. Overturn means destroy. The broils root out the work of masonry. Any work of creation is destroyed by the forces of war. Broils refer to the forces of war. So war is being referred as wasteful thing because it results into destruction of statues, monuments, and all the artistic things. All the arts and creation of human being gets destroyed in the hands of forces of war. Even the Mars, his sword, will not quicken forth, will not burn the poetry. Poetry will never burn or will never be destroyed by forces of war. By forces of
war.
The living record of our memory. So poetry is the living record of our memory, and that will always remain perpetual. That will always remain perpetual. Against death and oblivious enmity. Poet calls death and enmity as forgetful. Ask, sir, why?
Why, sir?
Because people forget death and enmity in the course of time. Say like that. People forget death and enmity. Death and
enmity
in the course of time. In the course of
time.
But poetry cannot be forgotten. Poetry cannot be
forgotten.
Salute pays forth. Even the poet's friend will rise from the, from the ashes of destruction on the last day, on the day of doom. Ending doom means the last day of humanity. Last day of
Humanity.
when humanity will get destroyed. Humanity will get.
Destroyed.
So if the poet's friend will rise from the ashes and will come alive, and the people will recall him in their eyes till posterity. Till.
Posterity.
And the last two line, even though till the judgment day, till the last day of judgment, the people will remember. He will arise. The poet's friend will arise from the ashes. He will live in the eyes of the coming generation. In the eyes of the
Coming
he will
generation.
dwell in the eyes of the coming generation. Coming
Generation.
So the last two line, that is the copulate, emphasizes the fact that poetry immortalizes our love. What does the last? What does the copulate emphasize? Poetry immortalizes
Immortalizes
our
the love.
love. Now let us now come to some brief questions. The rich and powerful people get ornate monuments made in order to be remembered till posterity. In order to be remembered
Till posterity.
repeat this. The rich and powerful people get ornate monuments made in order to be remembered till
Posterity.
The poet addresses his sonnet to the person he loves. Who does he address his sonnet to?
The person who loves.
The person who he loves.
He
The
loves.
poet addresses this sonnet to the person he loves, his friend,
Yes, sir.
because he loves his friend. In the living record of your memory, living record refers to the sonnet the poet has written for his friend. For his
Friend.
And the poet's tone in this poem is that of admiring. That of
Admiring.
He's very optimistic and admiring. The poem is set in the place where the poet meets his friend or writes the poem. Writes the
Poem.
So that is how, Bolo, that is how
That is how
we come to conclude this poem,
we can conclude this poem,
that
that
poetry
the poetry
immortalizes
immortalizes
our love.
our love.
Thank you.